Okay, our learning target has been looking at slopes of linear equations, whether they've been on graphs or in this case, on a table. So the idea is if I take and put in a -1, negative 0.6 times -1 is positive 0.6. 0.6 plus 0.8, 1.4. If I put in a 0, that's really easy math. 0 times negative 0.6 is 0 plus 0.8, 0.8. If I put in a 1, 1 times negative 0.6 is negative 0.6 plus 0.8 is 0.2. And then lastly, if I put in a 2, negative 0.6 times 2 is negative 1.2 plus 0.8, negative 0.4. The key part is that negative 0.6 is what happens with every single y value. We are dropping 6/10, aka negative 0.6, every single y value as the x goes up. So let's do the same thing down here. 2 times -1. Well, that's -2. -2 minus 3, -5. All right. What happens if we put a 0 in? Oh, 2 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 3 is -3. And now you should be able to make a conclusion. Hey, right there's our movement number. Our slope is 2. -5 plus 2 is -3. -3 plus 2 would be -1. Apologize. And -1 plus 2 would be 1. And again, if I really badly want to, I can grab my calculator real quick and double check that indeed 2 times 1 minus 3 would be -1. 2 times 2 would be 4. Minus 3 would indeed be 1. So now a new color for the next problem. What happens if I put a -1 in here? Oh, negative times negative is a positive 1. Positive 1 plus 1 is a 2. So now I go through and I change it to, hey, what happens if we put a 0 in there? Hopefully you can kind of quickly see this. 0 plus 1 would be 1. What happens if I put a 1 in there for the x? -1 plus 1 would be 0. And once again, you should see plus 1. So our next value, or minus 1, our next value should be -1. If you don't believe me, make that a 2 inside there. -2 plus 1, negatives 1 by 1, -1. A little bit more of the same. Put a -1 in. -1 plus 5 is positive 4. I put a 0 in. 0 plus 5 is 5. Hey, we are ultimately counting by 1 each time, so we'd have 6, 7. Plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. That number in front of x, even when it's not there, it's a ninja 1. We do have an x there, so 1x is really how to interpret the equation. Just like back on number 2, the way to really interpret the equation is -1 times x plus 1. Okay, and the last equation here, 1/2 times -1 plus 2. Well, that's the same as -1/2. And to get a common denominator, 2, well, 2 is the same as 4 over 2. So both denominators are 2 now. -1 plus 4, -3/2, or -1.5. If I put a 0 in, 0 times 1/2 is 0, plus 2 is 2, also known as 4/2. What happens if I put a 1 in? Clean it up a little bit. Let's put that 1 in and that 2 in. Kind of see where we're at. So I have 1/2 times 1. And now instead of plus 2, we would have 4/2. So we have a common denominator. 1/2 plus 4/2. Got a little ahead of myself. Equals 5/2. Also known as 2.5. So really, we're adding 0.5 repeatedly, or we're adding 1/2 repeatedly. 5/2 plus 1/2 would be 6/2, which is the same as 3. So key idea, the number in front of x, whether it's 1/2 or 0.5, whether it's a ninja 1 or ninja -1, a positive 2, or a negative 0.6, that is the number you're going to see repeatedly. Subtract it if it's negative, as in the example in number 2, or repeatedly add it if it is positive, as in number 1, number 3, and number 4. Hope this helps. Please give the Khan Academy your best try and keep doing your best.